Hello! Welcome to the Turret of Pleasure here in the enchanted kingdom of Hermione. We're just sitting around here watching Geneva play Cleveland by the fire because it's kind of cool out. And in fact, now that I think of it, I'll turn this off because it's probably adding noise. There. So, crackle of the fire, trying out a beer that is ostensibly made by Iron Maiden. And as I figured, it does sort of taste like bat's piss. Nice can. Anyway, I had to try it because, as we know, I am that sucker. But what this is not about I am that sucker today. No, this is the thrift story of thrift stories, because the Empress came upon the motherlode. Just as the thrift store was closing, they brought out a big bin of stuff. And she says, phones up and says, do you want this? And I'm like, holy moly roly. Which led to me going the next day as they opened and getting more. And I don't know how many we got, 50, I suppose. It's so many that I'm going to divide them into types of stuff, because clearly several different collections hit the thrift store at once. The one we're going to talk about today is the punk rock collection. Now, this always makes me happy because I really like punk rock. It doesn't show up in the thrift store very often. When it does, it's beat to fucking shit. Mercifully, CDs are more tolerant of such treatment, as are records. And the great thing, of course, is that the CDs of this stuff are worth basically nothing, or, nothing compared to the vinyl. But I got lots to go through. I divided the punk into 3 geographical locations. The first little pile, it's only about 4, Canada. Well, as you may know, this show comes from Canada, Victoria, British Columbia, BC, Souk region. And so, of course, I have to start with a CD that I bet you can't really read this because the artwork was not very well thought out. But this is the record, The Smoked Out Brains. And what the heck is it called again? This is, like I say, the color combinations are brutally bad. You cannot read it. Anyway, this is a record that, yes, I recorded it. All in the matter of a good time. The Perpetual Warp by the Smoked Out Brains. I don't know who thought that brown and green on brown was a good idea. And then these interesting fonts in the back. Smoked Out Brains are a crazy band from Victoria, mostly bass and drums in the beginning. On this particular record, they had a fellow by the name of Shiko from Japan on drums. And they are what you might expect out of a sort of a funky band that sings almost every song about smoking pot. It's great fun if you like stuff like Primus and bands like that. And if you need a good joke about smoking the ganja. Also from Victoria, BC, in the applicably shattered jewel box, is my old friends in the Who's Gal. I've done sound for these guys loads of times. I don't even remember this CD. I did not record this. Songs like Shit Talker and Skateboard Anarchy. This is a blast. Good luck finding it. My friend Big Rick, who is the guitarist in this band, also makes an absolutely killer pizza. Go to Peninsula Pizza for the pizza that will just fulfill your every pizza desire. Also Canadian, and this is stuff I love, Teenage Head with Marky Ramone. Now, I haven't played this yet. A few of these I haven't played. I'm trying to play this stuff so I can actually tell you what it's like. I don't really care what this is like. Produced by Daniel Ray. So this is going to be like Teenage Head. They sort of got together for this. Marky showed up and lent his considerable talents to this. And I've heard it's pretty good. It was really cheap, so I thought I'm going to buy this no matter what. And by all accounts, it's good, but I can't tell you. And then there's this. Now, I haven't heard this record since it came out, God knows when. I do believe they're from Ottawa. And this is a pretty classic Canadian hardcore punk rock record. I'd put this in the 10 most seminal Canadian punk rock records, perhaps. I'm glad I've got it. I'm glad I didn't have to pay much money for it. What's the song off of this was? Bomb the boats and feed the fish. That's right. I forgot about that. Great punk rock like they don't hardly make no more. And, you know, delightful thing to find in the thrift store. So then there was some stuff from UK. Now this is getting better. We're working our way up here, folks. So I found the EMI issue of Inflammable Material, which features Suspect Device, single version, 78 RPM. Great big long Jake Burns interview. This is from what, 78? I think 78, 79. And these guys are still on the road. And we saw them, the Empress and I. I like them. I'm not a huge fan or anything, but this record is really classic. And to this day, they're great live. Jake can still really sing. Another one that I was really happy to find, this I got for $2. Basically all the GBH you'll ever need. Now GBH are pretty cool. They and Discharge sort of invented the clay record sound, which was pretty good production for this kind of music. The first time, very crude but very loud, really, you know. And this features stuff from all of their records. Really, I don't need all of their records. Well, there's no list here. But it does feature the album they did called City Baby Attacked by Rats. That song is on here, which is good. We Are the Hunted. Luckily, the song Slut is not on this because I was not a big fan of that. And that is sort of the downfall of these guys, is that they're sort of yarbos. And, you know, they're Stoke-on-Trent, I think they're from. So you get what you get with these guys. Having said that, I'm glad to own it. It's a piece of English punk rock history that many still cherish. I certainly remember it somewhat fondly. And then you get into the real classic stuff, Wired. I've already got this. Everybody who likes punk rock should have this record. But I got this because it's I bought my CD when these first came out. It's an AAD mastered CD from the dawn of time. This is digitally remastered. I bought this simply so I could compare the two. And no, I haven't done it. It's nice and scratched up, so I haven't done it yet. I'll give you a full report at some point. But, you know, again, find that in the thrift store, buy it. And then there's the specials, of course. This record gets better now that a couple of the principals have died in this band. This record just gets better and better. Really isn't a bad cut on it. It's essentially epitomized the second wave of British ska. Them and the English beat, just can't stop it. Both are A+ records. I just found the Just Can't Stop It recently. Selector's first record goes in there, and then there's lots of singles. But really, absolutely a great party record. Okay, so that's the England and Canada. Now we get to the insane America. And like stuff, you know, like, okay, the world's shortest CD, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is 7 minutes long. The Minuteman Paranoid Time, an absolutely classic record. Yes, I've got the single. It's kind of weird to have it on a full-size CD when it would easily fit on one of those mini CDs. And I've got one of those for a Meat Puppets single, but whatever, it's cool. It was $1. I'm going to buy it. Now you get into stuff like this. Now, I don't like the Misfits as much as some people do, but I understand that this is probably the one to have. And when I put it on, 20 Eyes came on. I went, oh yeah, I like this record. And I do. I really like this record. Years ago, I played in a band with a bunch of our friends. We were called Mint Used because we all worked in the same record store. And we were just a goof-off band, so much so that I was the drummer, which proves what a goof-off band we were. And one of the songs that was selected by some of our guys was Astro Zombies from this record. And I'd never heard it before. So I said, how does it go? And he goes, boom, bam, boom, bam, boom, bam, boom, bam. I went, really? That's it? Yep. That's it. And I said, really? There's nothing? Nope. And by God, he was right, because I listened to this, and it's exactly the way I used to play it. Good job. I think it was Rob Nesbitt told me how to play it. Also, the Infinity Zero edition of Duty Now for the Future, which is another record that I did not like this record when it came out, I like it more. Ford Pierce educated me on this record more than anybody. It's a damn good record. This is the label that Rollins, I think, did with Rick Rubin or somebody, where they got to put out his favorite stuff. Here's an original issue of Fear of Music for $1. Another really good record. This and Remain in Light, and the second, well, actually, the first 4 records, I think, are must-owns. This is pretty much their apotheosis as a band, as a 4-piece band. And then they did Remain in Light, and then they started adding people for tours, and I lost interest. But this record's great. Robert Fripp does a real cool thing on it. Another band I find really overrated, but I had to buy it because it's 3 of their SSD singles, or 4 of their SSD singles. Haven't played it yet. These guys seem to be really famous for playing loud, and that didn't help Big Sugar. So, again, I have this. I might even have been there when they recorded it. I don't remember. But a classic meeting of the minds. And I just bought this so I can give it to somebody because it's not super easy to find. There is a process of reissue going on with the No Means No catalog, but it seems to be taking a long time, and I don't really know what's going on with it. Again, another, like, I might still have vinyl of this. This is essentially, if I know, it's not really clear here, but this is the War on 45 EP, which was a 8-song EP, but it was different in Britain. I think that's the British cover, and that's the American cover, if I remember right. And the British one had 2 different songs, I think it was. And then there was another thing. This is sort of a hodgepodge, but it's a darn good one. It's on Joe's label, which, let me see here. I'm not going to bother going through all of this, but suffice to say, this is mid-period Dave Gregg, Brian Whippy, Roy Goebel, Dim Wit on drums, classic era DOA. Oh, Ford Pierce on a couple of these. Festival of Atheists album. Interesting. Brian Whippy Goebel, Ken Jensen on drums. Oh, this looks like it's sort of maybe a little bit. Anyways, it's a great culmination of loose ends that I always wondered why they made EPs instead of just one good LP. But their problem has been rectified. And I love it. You gotta love it when a band that makes really short songs can put their entire recorded output on one single CD. There you have it. The Angry Samoans, as dumb a band as ever existed. The authors of the classic They Saved Hitler's Cock and the not-so-classic Homosexual. Lights Out is their manifesto where you poke your eyes out because you're sick of seeing. I have the album of Back from Samoa, which is worth apparently some money. This was $1, and I get that, plus everything else they ever did. Played it all the way through, and I had a good chuckle. It's in the car. Great stuff to have coming around. Another band I quite like, early Discord band, Scream. Mr. Dave Grohl played in this band, but not during this era. This album, Still Screaming, I bought when it came out. I still have it. Like all of my records, it's in perfect shape because I was that weird punk rocker that looked after his records. And basically, this is the first 2 albums they did for Discord. And this stuff really has held up well. Great East Coast hardcore. Great song in here called Solidarity. Excellent. Holds up very well. Holding up not quite as well, but still fun, was this. Now, this record was really popular with the punk scene because it was just about the only way you could hear bands like State of Alert, which was, as we all know, Mr. Hank Garfield's band, who changed his name to Rollins. I can't remember why. Minor Threat, Government Issue, Youth Brigade. Void, I remember being particularly sort of noisy. This is great. It's better in the car on shuffle mode because listening to it all at once is a little bit grinding. But again, I might have the record of this. And again, there's another $30 in my pocket. Great to have. Now we're getting into some weird stuff. Okay, Soul Brains. Oh, you mean Bad Brains? No. Apparently they were the Soul Brains by this point. This is a weird one. I've never even heard of this. A Bad Brains reunion live at the Maritime Hall, San Francisco. And it's basically they reunited for a tour. And for whatever reason decided they were tired of being known as the Bad Brains. So they're going to call themselves the Soul Brains. What I would call them is the Slow Brains. They don't sound like they're particularly into it on this live record. And I'm critical about these guys. The version of Pay to Come on this is completely pro forma. That's sort of my litmus test. There it is. I own it. It's from the library, so it's been mangled to the point where it's not worth anything. So I guess I'll have to find space for it. This! Now, I didn't know a damn thing about Sonic's Rendezvous, to be perfectly honest, and I almost picked up the phone and phoned my old friend Andrew Malloy and asked him about this, and I may well still. But this is a live gig of this band that featured Fred Sonic Smith, Scott Ashton, and what's his name? Sort of a Detroit rock supergroup. I can't read this type. God, these people, I gotta look at this stuff before they make it. Scott Morgan, Gary Rasmussen. I can't remember where Scott Morgan and Gary Rasmussen were from. But they're all stalwarts of the Detroit scene. This is post MC5. Look at that picture of Scott Ashton. That's rock action. That's, And this record is really good. I'm really into it. It's a live gig. They made one song apparently in the studio, and then there's tons of bad bootlegs apparently out there. Where this came from, I have no idea. It had a Lyle's Place price tag on it for $20. It's not super easy to find, and it just fell into my lap, and I really quite like it. And yeah, so that was a good one. I remember this, Palehead. This is, if I remember right, Ian MacKaye and Buddy from Ministry. It's okay. It's got a little bit of Big Black in it, although it might be a little bit before Big Black. But it's sort of like Ian MacKaye does an industrial thing with loud, nasty drum machine kind of drums. It has not worn well. I bought the record when it came out, and I thought it was pretty cool. Oh my God, the Emperor is coming in for a visit. Hey, come here. Say hi to the world. This is the Emperor Winston. What else did I end up getting? What did we get here? Winston's not very happy because these CDs are taking up his bed. Man or Astro Man, just a random one. It's on Touch and Go. I have some of their singles. I mean, they're basically a modern surf band, I guess. Haven't played this. It's interesting, I hear. I played this. I don't have any Blonde Redhead. Now, I got a rule. I don't like bands that are named after songs by trendy bands. And Blonde Redhead are, as we all know, named after a DNA song. I find this record a little bit fey, maybe. It doesn't rock super hard. I don't know. I'm not going to give up on this band because I've heard they're pretty good. I think I just maybe got off on the wrong foot. And this isn't really punk, but I mean, what's more punk than the Ghetto Boys being shot on the front cover of their record? And yeah, this was in there, and this is the record basically after the entire world gave up on these guys and said, look, you guys are just too much. We can't deal with you. So they just kind of did this themselves. It's kind of rough and scratchy, lots of sort of crappy kind of production. It doesn't matter. And that's what makes it kind of punk rock anyways. It's bleak. It's, as a white guy in Canada, I have extreme difficulty relating to a lot of what's going on here. And for that, I am eternally grateful, I must say. Finally, just because it's so funny. The final category is Everywhere. I haven't played this yet. I really wanted to, but I never got around to it. Ethnopunk. I'm going to bet there's not a whole lot of punk about this. And I'm trying to remember who the hell is on this again. Nobody I've ever heard of. The Mau Mau from Italy. Shugelnifty. I've heard of them. They're from Scotland. Mono Negra from France. I've heard of. Razdoazi from Poland. Anyway, this is on the EMI Hemisphere series, which the rule goes, if I see it for $1 and I don't have it, I'll buy it. And ethno-punk is just way too tantalizing a thing. Roots meets rebellion as ethnic musics of the world unite with Indian alternative rock. It says here. There you have it. Anyway, that was one. That pile over there is for a later video. I'm trying to keep a thread. But there's your punk rock. Thank you, whoever. Oh, and of course, the best part of this whole thing was I did open one of these there. Some of them are in not perfect shape. Who knew? Punk rock. But on one of them, when I opened up the box, a dead bed bug came out. Very flattened, very dead bed bug fell out, which kind of gave me pause. But so far, so good. I think maybe the Emperor has taken care of them. But that's it for that pile. I'll do some more later about I've lots of classic jazz and a little bit of classical, but nobody cares about classical, so we'll gloss over that very quickly later. But for now, I got to get this. Somebody's telling me it's dinner time, so I guess I should sign off and feed the Emperor. He's waiting for the Empress to come back from her travels. Anyways, Iron Maiden, nice try. I do realize that in Britain, beer like this is very popular. I find it kind of weak compared to all the microbrews that are all surrounding me here in Souk, BC. But it's not too bad if it's hot and you're thirsty. So there you have it. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll get back at you with some more. And hit the subscribe and the notification button. And we'll keep making these as long as we got something to talk about. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you later.